Primarchs. It's a subject we don't normally talk about on this channel, but I thought, I'd give it a little bit of a dabble today because I want to talk about Primarchs returning to Warhammer 40,000. I actually want your opinion on this subject matter. Are you for Primarchs returning to the current lore setting, or are you against it? I actually want to explore my feelings towards it, but also I want to flip the coin and I want to see it from the other side as well, like the potential harm it does to the lore, to the setting, and to actual armies fighting among each other in this never-ending war. So let's jump in and let's get talking. Now, since the end of 7th edition, we had the first big Primarch return to the 40k setting to launch basically a brand new era of narrative lore in Warhammer 40,000. Of course, that Primarch was Magnus. He was then followed by Mortarion, Guilliman, Angron is coming, and soon, very, very soon, Lionel Johnson will be coming as well. That is a rumor at this point, but hey, I'm calling it right now. No, this is not a video dedicated to Lionel Johnson. Anyway, since those Primarchs have come back, the narrative, the storyline has epically changed in Warhammer 40,000. It used to be like, this never-ending war, all the races used to be firing against each other. That is still there, but now we have this great rift that has ripped the galaxy in half. You can argue that the northern parts of the Imperium are in complete chaos, dismay. Dante's over there as the king of the north, as I like to call him. Guilliman is trying to repair the government, the Imperium itself, because how corrupt and how mismanaged it is since he's been lying in slumber. And you've had these demonic Primarchs who have basically just been going around rampaging, unleashing the power of chaos. You had Mortarion in the Plague Wars. You had Magnus attacking Prospero, devastating Prospero. If I'm not mistaken, the planet of Sorcerers is now in real space. It's no longer actually within the Eye of Terror. And soon, Angron is going to be returning to this setting, and we're going to get his narrative story on top of that as well. Now, it doesn't take a brain scientist to figure out my stance on Primarch returning to Warhammer 40,000. I am absolutely over the moon. For me, a Primarch is the embodiment of a Space Marine. And as you can probably tell by this room alone, I absolutely love Space Marines. So to have these beings, these characters, these fables of, ancient lore return in the current setting and start shaping the story itself is just mind-blowing and just spectacular. Like, for me, the connection to 30k is massive. It's huge. 30k is a Space Marines fantasy. To have the Primarchs then fighting other legions, their brothers, epic battles like Cygnus Prime, Calf, the Siege of Terror, and having the Primarchs who are there potentially then coming and returning to 40k and bringing all their grudges, all their stories, and then once again leading their sons in this new setting. It just creates so many new storylines, not really only for 40k, but potential of actual tabletop battles as well. I personally think it's a fantastic thing. And the reason I say that, and again, this is from more of a casual / narrative player, we can discuss the more tournament type of aspect and how that can be affected by Primarchs in a second, okay? We'll get to the negative part of this video in a second, but looking at this from a casual player, from, Crusade and just playing the lore for fun, having these iconic Primarch figures leading your army, surrounded by, all your epic troops, being built up over the, the years, the months, the weeks that you've been spending on it, then having that iconic figure placed down in between it, and then just launching your army at your opponent. For me, it's beautiful. There's nothing more beautiful in the world of wargaming, seeing a Primarch lead his sons into battle. Now, let's flip that Primarch coin up in the air and let's look at the disadvantages of Primarchs returning to the Warhammer 40,000 setting, to the Warhammer 40,000 narrative stuff that we have in front of us. And I think the main talking point on this is just how powerful Primarchs are. I've always argued that Primarchs can only be killed by other Primarchs. That's the way that Games Workshop have written Primarchs, just how powerful they are. I know some people are going to say, well, what about Comrade Kurz? What about Rogel Dawn? Listen, right, Rogel Dawn is not dead, right? He's alive. I'm not getting into this in this video, right? He is alive. Show me the body. And Kurz allowed himself to be killed. Okay, that is the end of that subject. Now, the way that Games Workshop have written these Primarchs is just like I just said, they're literally so powerful. For instance, I think it was actually in the Fulgrim book where Fulgrim fought an avatar of Cain. You can argue that everyone beats an avatar of Cain, but he literally gripped the avatar of Cain, if I'm not mistaken, by the neck, and he was like choking it out. And then he started punching it in its face and stuff. And like the avatar of Cain is like described to like be like hotter than the sun. And you've got Fulgrim over here just literally beating it down like it's nothing new. So when you have that type of power now brought back over to Warhammer 40,000, and you can argue that the Primarchs are even more powerful now in Warhammer 40,000 because most of them are demonic Primarchs. They have the power of chaos plus their Primarch, you know, biology and stuff like that. Guilliman with the Emperor's Sword, who can like permakill stuff with that. It's a whole different level of story that you have to tell, because in 40k, it's way different than 30k, because 30k, it was just Primarchs versus Primarchs, Space Marines versus Space Marines. But now what we have is all these different races. We've got Necrons, we've got Tau, we've got Tyranids, we've got Eldar, Dark Eldar, Orcs. So you got to have the Primarchs coming across these races way more than they are going to stumble across, you know, other Space Marine chapters and their fellow brother Primarchs. So when you have, for example, Mortarion, Angron, Guilliman taken to the field, and they go against these races like the Tau, surely, because the way that Games Workshop have written these Primarchs, it's going to be no contest, because they're just going to go in there and literally butcher anything they come across. And there is also another argument, is that bringing Primarchs back kind of loses a bit of the magic to the setting itself, the story itself. Like the Primarchs were back 10,000 years ago when the Emperor walked around, when the Great Crusade was around, when the Imperium was at its height and it was about to conquer the galaxy. And now bringing them back kind of loses that little bit of magic. I can actually see where people are coming from. You know, a lot of people like to have the mystery around Warhammer 40,000 still. And what Games Workshop have been doing over the past couple of years, they've been removing that. We're seeing more stories now, you know, of the foundations of the Imperium, more backstories into the Primarchs and, you know, other aspects of the story. I can completely get where people are coming from. Again, my stance on that is that I don't care. I love to know everything, but I can definitely see how that can kind of ruin a little bit of the magic. You're like peeking behind the curtain where you don't want to see that. You just want to see the show in front of you and imagine, you know, it's all real and everyone on there is actually there. Also, from the tabletop view, again, I'm just a casual player. I like to play casual. I'm not into, like, you know, making these nasty, disgusting lists, but, you know, some of you out there do, and Primarchs really add to that. I actually remember back in, was it the start of launch of 8th edition? Yeah, I think it was 8th edition, where you could run like a Magnus Mortarion, like I think it was like a super heavy detachment or something like that. I think Aramin was in there, and everyone was just running that because of how devastating it was. I remember going around Warhammer World at one point and looking at all the tables, and like every other table was just like Magnus Mortarion, Magnus Mortarion, Magnus Mortarion. And of course, people complained because it was ruining the game for them. They were so powerful, it ruined it. And again, this goes back to the point I was saying, because Primarchs are so powerful, Games Workshop kind of have to make them powerful on the tabletop to represent them, you know, in the lore, because they are these beasts full of power and, you know, what they can do and how they can lead their armies and, you know, bring all like the chaos abilities, you know, with some of them. So yeah, I can kind of understand that. So I can kind of see why sometimes the rules are written badly, because, I should say, I'll not say badly, they're very, very broken and unbalanced, because you do have these Primarch beings that have all this power. No matter what your stance is, I think we can all say is that Games Workshop are now on that Primarch bike. You're only going to see more Primarchs return to the setting. One, because it started now, that Avalanche is on its way and it's not stopping. Two, is because it makes a lot of that for Games Workshop. And if something that Games Workshop love, it's this. They just love it. They wash themselves in the morning with this. That's money, by the way, for those of you who don't know what I'm on about. So yeah, I only predict more Primarchs. Like I said, Lion next. I predict by the end of 10th edition, which is probably going to be, 2, 3, 4 years away, we'll have Fulgrim. We'll be talking about Fulgrim returning. Then after that, we'll have even more Loyalist Primarchs returning, because that's just the way it is. Logar, Perturabo, Corax, Rogel Dawn. These Primarchs are returning to the setting because it makes them money, and Games Workshop have now opened the gates for the Primarchs to return. So it's just the way that we're going now. Anyway, enough waffling from me. Thank you for coming. Thank you for watching, as always. If you've got any thoughts, feedback, anything like that, again, I would love to get your point of view on this. Do you welcome Primarchs returning to Warhammer 40,000? Yes or no? It's a really simple answer. If it's yes, why? No, then why? Post it down below, and we can have a nice little chat, as we always do. See you now. Have a great day, and bye-bye.